Peter Leibovitch, whom many of you know, from the Hamilton Coalition to Stop the War. Peter.
I'd like to thank the Hamilton Muslim Association, the Palestinian Association of Hamilton, for organizing this event. And I've listened to the speakers. I know this event has been productive. I know it's been useful. I know from the speakers, after listening to each one of the speakers, they all had something to add to this discussion. And I don't want to repeat many of the things that have been said. But I also want to frame my remarks. As the Hamilton Coalition to Stop the War, which I co-chair, which was brought together working with many people in the community against the occupation and Canadian military intervention in Afghanistan, we understand that the whole development of where we're at today has been on the question of the military occupations of the nations in the Middle East, of Islamic nations, and the threat to many of the other nations in the Middle East, in Africa, and in the Near East. Based on a theory, based on an ideology, by the way, which was framed and pinned in the 80s. If you remember, there was a conference that Benjamin Netanyahu put together with his Republican friends in the United States, and decided that we can't any longer use the term insurgent. We can't use the term of the right of people to rebel, the right of people to resist their occupation. That all these legitimate rights that people were fighting for became penned in the term terrorist. And the term terrorist, which became the focal point of the propaganda that came from the West and came from Israel, was used against the Palestinians and against every other group in the Middle East and in Islamic nations who were fighting for their own freedom, for their own control, their own nations, and for justice. And by using the word terrorist, every criminal, every crime was justified against humanity. And what we're seeing today is a culmination of that, so that when a nation that has the most advanced technology, that is able to bomb citizens back into oblivion, that is able to kill women and children, that is able to starve 1.5 million people in front of us. This is not happening where we don't know about it. This is not happening in Somalia, which we don't see on a daily basis. It's not happening in countries that we don't see on TV. It is happening every hour on the national news, on CTV, wherever you turn on a TV station, you can see it. You can watch a massacre happening in front of you, and not one government official in Canada, not one government official in the United States, not only do they not condemn it as a massacre, but they say the people who are doing the massacre have a right to defend themselves. How can we have such a situation? How can we live in a moment where we watch people being killed by the hundreds on a daily basis, by planes and by guns and by bombs that are made in America? And we sit there listening to the news tell us how Israel has a right to defend itself, and how they just killed a whole family, but that was part of the right to defend themselves. Jennifer Lowenstein, who writes for Counterpunch and who's the professor of Middle East Studies in Wisconsin, penned it on Monday in her article, said that as long as you use the word Hamas, any crime committed is justified. And that's what we're seeing now. I agree that we have to use this opportunity to commit ourselves. Yasser said it so well. We have to get rid of the divisions amongst ourselves. We have to divide this country and this world between those people who believe in justice and those people who practice it, and who fight against justice. And that anybody who stands with us, whether they're Jew, Muslim, Christian, whether men or women, whatever nationality they come from, if they fight for justice, that's the people that we should be with. Saying all that, this country is changing. Canada is changing. The makeup of this country is changing. People are here from Latin America, from Africa, from the Middle East, from Asia. And many of them come from experiences that the Palestinians have gone through, have seen the kinds of what happens with occupation and oppression, and make up hundreds of thousands, millions of Canadians now. And we should demand from our government, instead of the cynical vote sort of buying that our governments do during election time, we should demand that the people that we elect stand on principle, stand against occupation, stand for justice. Because if we do any less than that, then we are giving in to the oppressors. And we can't afford anymore to have 30 or 40 people at rallies or at demonstrations, or 1 or 2 people like, Brother Stone, who writes to the newspaper every month. It has to be hundreds and thousands of voices, so that people realize, that our leaders realize, that our press realize that they cannot get away with it anymore, that the truth will be heard. And it's our responsibility, everybody in this room, every one of your families and your friends and people who do know the truth. Because if you do know the truth and you keep it in the dark, then you're not doing any differently than the people who are lying. We have to expose the truth in Palestine, and we have to expose the truth here in North America. And I think that maybe this might be the tipping point, the defining moment, and how we fight as Canadians for justice, because what is happening in Palestine cannot keep on going on, and we cannot allow our government to continue to enable the victimization of millions of Palestinians and 1.5 million people who live in Gaza. That is the least that we can do for them while they're facing the crisis that they're facing now. Thank you.